A girl between the lands. So we lived in a town where it was only people from my community living, segregated from the rest of the native people of that country, Pakistan. And the genocide of my people started since I was a kid, and it was because of our ethnic and religious identity. It happened on a land where several years ago all Afghans, just like my families, fled from Afghanistan and sought refuge in Pakistan. And now here we were no longer safe. The daily targeted attacks on my people affected our daily lives, from going to school, going to work, and going out for shopping, and every aspect of our lives got affected. So likewise for my dad, it was no longer safe to go to work because of his religious and ethnic identity. And he was the breadwinner of our family. So due to this ongoing ethnic cleansing, the men of my town chose to seek refuge somewhere else. And so did my dad. Now once again my family had to seek refuge on a different land from this one because it was no longer a safe haven for us. So the men of my town found Australia to be safe, and they would get there illegally by boat. So many of them lost their lives on the way to refuge and to build a safer and better future for their families. It was a huge risk to take, but the only option. And likewise, my dad chose the same option. And he left us to seek refuge on a different land, our dreamland, Australia. And it took him to cross several borders between several countries, then to get to the boat and sail ashore to Australia. And I remember that goodbye because it could have been the last goodbye with my dad. It could have been the last time we saw our dad alive and with us. It was a monopoly of life for us. After saying goodbyes, he left and left us with tears and hope that he would arrive safely. And he left with a backpack filled with hope and filled with the responsibility of rescuing his family from genocide and giving his family a safer and better future on a different piece of land. When he left the threshold of our house, in between our tears and cries, we all stood in prayers. Me and my siblings as kids, along with my mother, stood in prayers for hours and hours and days, asking God to make our dad's journey safe so that he gets to that land safely and not become the dinner of the cruel sharks and whales in the sea. I remember that moment very well. I remember saying goodbye to him, and after that I got muted for a whole day. I could not speak. And we asked my mom, like, Mom, we are tired of praying. Can we stop? She said, no, continue your prayers, because your kids, and God listens to kids' prayers much more. He tried 3 times. The 2 attempts were unsuccessful, but on the 3rd attempt, he called my mom and said, hey, I am standing by the boat, about to get loaded on the boat, and hopefully get to safety. Take care of my kids and yourself. And the human smugglers took everything from these passengers, their money, their personal belongings, and their phones. But my dad kept his phone hidden so that he could call Mom and update her about his safety. He got loaded on the boat that was not a cruise ship, but a very unsafe boat, with a life jacket and a minimum amount of food and water for all passengers. They started their journey. Oh, how painful it was as my dad's boat hit every wave of the sea. And my dad's like, when I started on this journey, and the waves and the wind and the storm were so cruel that it made each of us regret the decision that we made to seek refuge. Alas, that was the only option. He thought that how grateful at the same time he was that he didn't bring us along with him. And he thought about me in particular, saying that my older daughter would not have been able to experience this cruel journey on the boat and would have passed out. And it took him several days to fight the cruel waves of the sea, the wind, and his uncertain future, and life and death, and God, and hope, and faith, and his family's responsibility. And anytime their boat could get any closer to any piece of island, he would take out his phone and attempted to call my mom, saying, "Hey, I'm alive so far. I'm okay so far. Take care of my kids." He did that multiple times. And besides many other things, he said that the boat didn't have cabins. He said that during the day he would sit on a barrel looking out the sea and his future. And at night, there was a little space behind the captain where he kept his stuff. That's where my dad would get to bed to sleep. It wasn't a big enough space for him to lay down. And with patience, with faith and hope and uncertain future, he, with his fellow boat passengers, continued the journey. And as they got closer to the Australian side, their captains left and handed the boat to teenage boys to get them to Australia. Oh, how cruel the shore was, but it didn't know that these passengers had families, that they had hoped that they would survive and would bring their families to safety.